Ever wondered what happens when someone tries to bend the rules and gets caught in the act? In this video, we're diving into 4 unforgettable ID refusal moments that ended with epic walks of shame. From overconfident attempts to talk their way out to awkward excuses that didn't hold up, each story is packed with suspense, drama, and a whole lot of secondhand embarrassment. Picture this: a tense standoff, an officer standing firm, and someone slowly realizing their bluff has been called. With every refusal, the stakes get higher and the exits more humiliating. You won't believe how these situations spiral and ultimately end with heads hung low. So buckle up, it's going to be a ride full of twists, turns, and a few lessons about playing by the rules. Stick around to see how it all unfolds, because you won't want to miss these unforgettable moments. It all started with what seemed like small, confident steps into situations that quickly spiraled out of control. First up, we've got someone walking into a restricted area, completely unfazed by the rules, claiming they didn't need ID, because they were just passing through. But as you'll see, it wasn't long before the questions started piling up, and their confidence started cracking. Meanwhile, another encounter unfolded at a checkpoint where one person decided to argue over why they shouldn't need to show identification at all. They had every excuse ready, except the one thing they actually needed: their ID. Each scene reveals just how far people will go to avoid something so simple, and every refusal brings an air of tension you can almost feel. Will they come clean, or will their bluff carry them deeper into trouble? The answers are anything but predictable, and the suspense is just getting started. As the moments unfolded, the tension in each situation kept building. In one story, a person boldly walked up to a security guard, acting as if rules didn't apply to them. With a charming smile and a dismissive wave, they tried to breeze past. But the guard wasn't having it. "ID, please," they said firmly, holding their ground. Suddenly, the confidence began to slip, replaced with nervous laughter and stalling tactics. The excuses ranged from forgetting their wallet to claiming they were a regular who didn't need to follow the same rules. But every attempt to sidestep only tightened the guard's resolve. In another scenario, a heated debate erupted between someone convinced they could talk their way out and a calm but unyielding staff member. Each excuse was countered with polite but pointed questions, and with every reply, you could see the realization setting in: they weren't winning this argument. The clock was ticking, and the crowd was watching, adding even more pressure. The suspense of what they'd try next was palpable, leaving everyone wondering: would they give up or dig in deeper? With every passing moment, the pressure in each situation hit new highs. The person at the security checkpoint, now visibly uncomfortable, tried one last desperate move. They claimed to know someone in charge, and even pulled out their phone to make a call. Whether real or fake, no one could tell. The security guard stood silently, arms crossed, watching the performance unfold. The growing crowd could feel the tension, and a few exchanged knowing looks, silently wondering how much longer this could drag on before the inevitable conclusion. Meanwhile, at the restricted area, things were escalating quickly. The individual, still refusing to show ID, began pacing and raising their voice, trying to shift the blame to the staff. But their attempts to dodge responsibility were only making matters worse. Every excuse sounded thinner, every argument weaker. You could sense the turning point approaching, the moment when all eyes would fall squarely on them, and the reality of their situation would hit. It was only a matter of time before the final cracks appeared, and everything came to a head. Just when it seemed like things couldn't get more tense, an unexpected twist shook the situation even further. At the checkpoint, the person refusing to show ID suddenly claimed there had been a mix-up. They insisted their identification had been taken earlier, and tried to shift the blame onto the staff. This threw everyone off for a moment, creating just enough confusion for them to try slipping past the line. But the security guard was quick to block their path, their patience now clearly wearing thin. The crowd, now fully invested, leaned in closer, eager to see what would happen next. At the restricted area, the situation took an equally surprising turn. A supervisor arrived on the scene, reviewing the entire back and forth from the start. Instead of backing down, the person doubled down, claiming they were being targeted unfairly. Horace's supervisor calmly asked a series of direct questions. Their story began to unravel in real time. With the stakes now higher than ever, and the crowd hanging on every word, the tension was almost unbearable. Each passing second made it clear that the moment of reckoning was just around the corner. And then it all came crashing down. At the checkpoint, after every excuse had been exhausted, the security guard calmly asked the person one last time, "Do you have any form of ID with you?" Caught completely off guard, they hesitated before finally pulling a card from their back pocket, a card they had claimed not to have. The crowd's quiet gasps said it all. The tension broke, replaced by a wave of second-hand embarrassment as the person, now visibly flustered, handed over the ID without a word. But just as it seemed the drama was over, the guard gave the card a closer look, paused, and said, "This expired 6 months ago." The crowd couldn't help but let out a collective sigh, some even chuckling as the person turned bright red. At the restricted area, the climax played out with an equally dramatic twist. As the supervisor reviewed the details, they revealed something no one expected. The person had already been warned about this exact issue weeks before. Faced with undeniable proof, they had no choice but to back down. But instead of walking away quietly, they turned and muttered something under their breath, only to trip over a nearby barrier on their way out. The combination of awkwardness and irony left everyone shaking their heads, with a few quiet laughs filling the air. As the dust settled, both situations left a lasting impression on everyone who witnessed them. At the checkpoint, the person's walk of shame was a quiet one, with their expired ID in hand, and no more excuses left to give. The security guard returned to their post, calm and composed, as the crowd gradually dispersed, some shaking their heads while others shared knowing smiles. It was a clear reminder that sometimes owning up from the start is far better than trying to outsmart the system. Back at the restricted area, the individual's stumble seemed to perfectly capture the end of their efforts to avoid accountability. The staff and supervisor exchanged a few words before getting back to work, while the crowd's murmurs faded into the background. These moments highlighted one universal truth: rules exist for a reason, and bending them often comes with a price. In the end, everyone left with a story they wouldn't forget, and maybe a newfound respect for simply following the rules.